50 Cent. 50 Cent must have gone down a YouTube rabbit hole one evening. I wake up, he's accidentally changed my life because he's been sharing my work all night.
Wow.
And saying this teacher, it was kind of like a semi-patronizing comment, but a compliment. He was like, this teacher has actually got some flow. As in, like, look at him. You'd expect him to just be dead. Like, look at the state of this guy. But, he can actually rap.
Yeah.
The Drazzy Show.
What's good, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Drazzy, and welcome to the Drazzy Show. Today I have another special guest. Guest, would you please like to introduce yourself?
Hickory dickory dock, my wicked delivery hitting the spot. Now, remember the bit I forgot, I slow it down, begin at the top. My name is Christian, I'm a poet, maybe a couple of you know me. If you're in my class, you could call me Mr. Foley.
Jeez! I got to add a bit. Mr. Foley, that's my homie.
The one and only.
Yeah.
Like a rollie. Yes, I'm a hip-hop teacher.
Yeah.
Which means my role is to use rap to kind of facilitate emotional and skills-based literacy in classrooms. So that is my. So I've been working for a decade in alternative provisions and mainstream schools. So I work with excluded children and children in a more kind of conventional setting. And I'm their rap teacher, essentially. So I'm going into these classes, and I know the children very well because I've been in these settings for a long time. And my role is not that of a conventional teacher. So sometimes there's a misconception about my work that, this teacher, he raps so well. But it's more the case that, I'm a rapper that teaches rather than a teacher who happens to rap. And for me, that's a big distinction. As the reason I'm being brought into this educational world is because of my identity as a hip hop artist. It's not something on the side that like, I'm teaching you science, and all of a sudden I'm doing a quick 16.
Y'all know I used to rap, right?
Yeah. And so, I think the media certainly is sometimes helpful. It's a gift and a curse because I often go viral because of that misconception, because everyone's like, oh my God, this teacher is just bust out this kind of this rap off the cuff. It's not as impressive when it's like, hired hip hop artist who works in schools has done another rap again, as per his job quota. But no, I think that the public fascination, if fascination is the right term, there's certainly an interest in what I do, which I'm grateful for, but not necessarily from a standpoint of, look at me. It's because I think that the work I'm doing is shining a light on the way that I believe children need to be taught and the way that I believe children want to learn, which is to be engaged, to be interested, to have their cultures and their interests spoken to by a teacher, and I think that in the UK we've got a long way to go before our curriculum and our content that is in the classroom matches the young people that we're working with. We have this kind of still like colonial curriculum that is an overhang from a Victorian era and this factory style education. So my role is to disrupt that, to break that. So this is a very long-winded introduction as to who I am.
It's beautiful, though.
I am aware, but essentially that's what my role is. And I've been, since I discovered poetry maybe as a 9-year-old, I discovered hip hop as probably a 13-year-old. Now I've been an MC since then. It's kind of this accident that happened, a bit like penicillin, where I was just left to my own devices and suddenly I was coming up with this sickness. But I never planned it. I never kind of set out be like, okay, I'm going to be an MC, I'm going to be a rapper. I just started being able to rap, and I found that I could do it. And it was kind of this oddity at first, because I grew up in the Channel Islands, right? This is not this hotbed of hip hop. This is a tiny island that is 9 miles wide and like 5 long. Off France.
So how did you get hip hop? How did you get hip hop over there? Was it like, because back in the days you had to have a physical copy? Did you have a mate who brought you a tape from America or something?
We had a HMV, and I remember
on the island.
No, it was a flagship. The island had one street of.
Was the HMV a ship? Was it a ship that passes by?
Her Majesty's vessel just going through. But we have this one street called King Street, and I used to go into HMV, and it was a really formative experience because I remember. There was 2 records being sold at that time that were going head to head, and it was when Kanye was going against 50 Cent. On that sales race, right? And so the way the HMV had set it up, they had put a Kanye late registration on one kind of stall, and then there was Before I Self-Destruct oh no, Graduation rather, and then
Yeah.
Before I Self-Destruct.
Yeah.
And I remember picking up Graduation. I often think what would have happened if I'd have gone to the 50 Cent side. I wouldn't have probably
Yeah.
becoming, you know, like I would just be another kid that
You just be a
consumed kind of
spectator.
gangster rap. Yeah. Whereas, you know, for all his flaws, and there are many, I think what Kanye was doing with socially conscious lyricism at the time was showing kids who had just picked up hip hop for the first time that it could be this politically uplifting form of social consciousness and intelligence and wit. Not to say that 50 doesn't have wit, but you're not necessarily.
I get where you're coming
kinda...
from. 50 suits a niche that is not pushing boundaries intellectually and not pushing boundaries in terms of like I won't say progression because they care about money, so in a financial sense progression, but in terms of like mental stimulation and like educational, Kanye definitely he fits that definitely fits that. I get what you mean.
Yeah, so it was. I remember picking that up, and then I sought out the instrumentals online, and then I found I could freestyle. It was very odd. It kind of came from nowhere. I had this ability, like with words, from, you know, like writing a lot of poems and spoken word when I was younger. And then it just, yeah. So I was freestyling, and then freestyling turned into live performances. Live performances turned into Radio 1. Radio 1 turned into kind of working at a low level as being signed to labels, but never to the degree that I had made it. But certainly to the degree that people were aware that I was an MC, and that's how my job came about, which was through Goldsmiths University. And you know, they're quite a radical. I do a PhD there at the moment, and I teach on a lot of the MAs to do with education and the undergrads. And what Goldsmiths said to me, they said, we're trying this experiment, and it was an experiment. We're taking professional artists, we're training you as teachers, and we're going to put you in schools. All you have to do is research what are the ramifications of, you know, having a poet in residence. If we put a poet in a school, you're based there as a member of staff, but your remit is to help the kids write poems, not to pass exams. What happens? And so that happened in 2014. And I went into an alternative provision in East London. So working with a group of 20 young guys who are about between 16 and 18, and they'd all been excluded from school for varying degrees of violence. And my role was to go in and to help them articulate themselves through rhyme. And it was severe. It was a real kind of, the learning curve was steep for me and for the kids, you know, because it was the children had a lot of, it was difficult for them to talk, you know, because so much had happened to them that, and, you know, you can't come in with this hero narrative of, you know, okay, especially like this white savior narrative, which we see a lot of in this realm.
Gangster's Paradise.
And that's not, like, I'm going to come in and save these kids. And you see that a lot. I was at 21, 22, and that's not, I reckon I probably had in the back of my mind, you internalize these thoughts, and I think, okay, I'm going to use my intelligence and my ability with words, and I'm going to change these kids' lives. And it doesn't happen like that. And I always guard against that when I'm training teachers now of that mindset. You have to be very realistic, and you can you can contribute positively to the development of a young person, but you're never solely, you know, in charge of saving. Their failures are their own, and, you know, their responsibilities are their own, and you can help, but also their credits are their own. When their accomplishments are achieved, that's not solely because of you either. You know, young people have agency. So it was a big year in that first year, because, you know, some of those children were killed, some went on to murder. It was like when I say severe, it was a severe learning curve of the realities of the kind of work that we were bringing poetry to. And I came away from that year thinking, you know, it's good to help children to talk through poetry, but you can't change the directions of people's lives by saying, all right, let's spit some bars. So what needed to happen was, this work should be done in tandem with, you know, social services, with funding for youth clubs and all of that. And that doesn't happen in London. Those services have been cut and cut and cut and cut. So just having rappers in school, while it's better than not having rappers in school, is not gonna do enough. So a lot of my work is very politically motivated now because I understand the limitations of my role. I think it's good that we're helping kids to be able to talk through MCing. I think that's a good thing. But if we're not changing things for their like daily realities as soon as the school closes, then we're really limiting the impact that we can have. So it can be quite a frustrating profession, this, because you're working, you know, at the real deep end, and sometimes you and the young people feel like we're just, no one's shining a light on what we're doing. That's where this stuff is good, because it's more visibility for this kind of work. And yeah, like you said, you would have known nothing about it before, right? And most people don't.
So I want to ask you a question. What do you think it is about poetry, rap music, that has literally captivated the minds of the youth so well? Because I went to school and I found Shakespeare a little bit interesting. I found him a little bit interesting, but not as interesting. I found people like, I don't know, Dead Prez, Noriega. Who was I listening to at the time? DMX, Snoop Dogg, Nas. And most of these guys had some negative bits, but I still learned a lot from them. Like I remember picking up the dictionary time Nas rapped. I learned a lot of words from Nas, especially Raekwon. Every time I had Raekwon rap, I was learning a lot of words.
I mean? The chef, man, his vocabulary, he was cooking up some.
I'm telling you. So what do you think it is about rap music? Because it's not as if we were alien to it. Like I said, we had Shakespeare, we had poetry in school. What is it about rap music that you think is aiding you to get these children motivated to learn?
It's interesting if we keep Shakespeare as the example, and if you put Shakespeare in a modern context, perhaps he would be leaning more towards being an MC. So Shakespeare invented 1,700 words now, and which are then added to the English lexicon and our dictionary. The people who are inventing words now, are the MCs.
Yeah, bling bling.
What?
Yeah.
Bling bling, make it rain with about bling bling.
And you know, and you take a word like stan, that you know, this portmanteau of stalker and fan, that is in the dictionary. That is Eminem, who has invented a word that is then widely used. So I think that what Shakespeare was, and this is how we're teaching Shakespeare wrong, because we're teaching Shakespeare, first of all, an over-reliance on Shakespeare is unhealthy. There are other, you know, writers.
Yeah.
But that is to say, he did have a tremendous impact on the English language, which is true. But then you could, you know, you take the themes of Shakespeare. Okay, Macbeth, there is this power struggle, and the quest for power eventually leads in tragedy. We take a song like I Gave You Power by Nas from the perspective of the gun. It's the same story. It's this quest for power, this gun that is ever like used by people who just want to use it for elevation. Eventually, you know, there's murder and death. So hip hop is very Shakespearean already. And with the rhythms, we could take Sonnet 18, which is a very famous one. And Akala does a riff on this as well, when it says, shall I compare thee to a summer's day, thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May. If you listen to that, okay, it sounds poetic and quite flowery, but it's not very interesting. But you take the same words and you put them at 140 BPM. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May. Summer's leaf hath too short a day. Sometimes, you know,
so it's
all of a sudden kids are like, so there is certainly something in the kind of the rhythmic elements of hip hop, the percussive, like the drum, that drum beat, that 808 that kids love. But it's a question I often ask myself, why is it hip hop that we all gravitate towards to? But it is, if I go in there, and luckily I can't and don't do this, but if I just go in there, another dude with a guitar and be like, okay, we're going to do Wonderwall, everyone. You're getting laughed out that room, and rightfully so. I don't know what it is, but I think that hip hop is all about being your authentic self. This idea of, there's a real preoccupation with being real in hip hop, and often people aren't real. They're very performative.
Yeah.
I sometimes go to private schools in, you know, like the middle of nowhere, and, you know, the kids are doing drill, talk about how they run Peckham. I mean, their parents probably own half of the apartment complexes there, but you know,
no.
it's just like, it is. They're just like, yeah, man, don't catch me around Peckham. Like, you go to boarding school. Like, I won't catch you around Peckham.
Nah, because I seen a few of your clips. How I discovered you, I saw a few of your clips some years ago. I can't remember how many years ago it was. You were on like Grime Daily, SBTV, the Shade Borough. You were on quite a few of like the black social media kind of like, you know, circuits, and everyone was just fascinated how I think there was a bit where you said to the kids, keep quiet, keep quiet. I can't remember what it was. It was a viral clip, and you rapped, and they were all like rapping along with you.
Okay. Nod your heads. That's it. It's nursery grime. Follow me. Incy Wincy Spider climbed up the water. Down came the rain and washed poor Incy. Out came the sun and dried up all the. So Incy Wincy Spider climbed up the spouter. Well, I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here's my handle, here's my spout. When I get steamed up, hear me shout. Tip me over and pour me out like row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Well, Humpty Dumpty sat up on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together up. Jack and Jill went up that hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after.
Like they were doing the ad-libs for you, like kind of like, tell my man, shut up.
It might have been the nursery grime one, I think.
I think it was the nursery grime one. That triggers a memory.
Humpty Dumpty sat up on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a big fall. And all the kids like, fall.
Yeah. That's the one. And I thought, raw, that's very engaging. That's very interesting. So, you know, I want to talk more about your past. So you said earlier to me that, you know, you grew up on the island, Channel Islands, and hip-hop found its way to you over there. What were your ambitions? You know, were you trying to become a rapper?
Yeah, so I was never, when I was rapping, it was never with the express intent to become a rapper. I didn't think that was a career pathway that was possible. In fact, my school were aware that I was a hip hop artist because they used to bring it up. It was a problem for my school because we were doing kind of ciphers and stuff in the playground, and it was causing what the RZA would call a ruckus. And the school were like, you can't do this. Like, you can't just be doing these like concerts and stuff. And I don't know why you're trying to be a rapper anyway, Christian. You shouldn't be doing. There's not a career in this. You should be, I don't know, why don't you be a banker or something like that? And I remember my careers advisor just telling me all this stuff he thought that I should be that had no relevance to me. The only thing that they mentioned that did hold interest to me was teaching, when they're like, you know, you could be a good teacher. Eventually, when they realized that the rap stuff wasn't going to go away, the school actually kind of co-opted me into, they were like, when I was in sixth form, so I'm about 17, 18 at this point, they were like, you know so much about poetry, why don't you start running some clubs for the younger kids? Because they want to see you rap in the playground anyway, so why don't you set up a poetry club and you can teach year sevens? So I started teaching really actually before I left school.
Oh, wow.
Which is A, illegal, B, probably
is it illegal because you never got paid?
Child labor. So yeah, I started teaching at that age, and then, like I said, it was that approach from Goldsmiths University that brought me into schools. But I was willing to do it, and I was ready. Like, I liked the idea of becoming a teacher, and I managed to carve out a career where I became a teacher and I never stopped being an MC. So I'm a professional MC, but in the classroom, that's my stadium, that's my arena. And I used to hate it when people were like, oh, Christian Foley, the rapping teacher. I was like, oh no, I'm an MC, man. You can't be calling me the rapping teacher. But you know what? I don't mind it as much now. Probably because it's my only avenue to success at this point. But
If you're having school problems, that ain't. Tell me 9 problems when you're in year. I woke up late and it hurt my head. Yeah, I really wish I could have stayed in. The lid was loose on my lunch. It fell off, food fell on my sandwich simply lost its cheese. And in the playground I scraped the footy got kicked right over the wall. How can we play if we've got no? If you're having school problems, that ain't. Tell me 9 problems when you're in gear. It's hard to sit still, staying in one place. Now I really lost my carpet. I tried to write the title but my pencil snapped. So now how can I write this? The paper's too small, I can't stay in the lines. But that doesn't matter, I can make these. I'm getting really hungry and I just wanna munch. Yo, Christian, what time is? If you're having school problems, that ain't. Tell me what they are, we could get them. Tell me what they are, we could get them.
I used to hate it, and now I've kind of like, I kind of embraced it because this is my lane. And if someone just said to me, okay, you can be an MC, you can do all of the things you wanted in that circuit, right? We've got a song, Dave's on piano, you're going to hop on, you can do a 16, but you can never teach again. I wouldn't take that option because I wouldn't actually want to leave the classroom, because my future and my career is in education. And I've got a sweet thing going on here where I get to be myself every day without compromising any aspects of my identity. You know, as a teacher, sometimes you're expected to be this kind of mechanistic robot who just delivers curriculum and with no personality, no face, no past. That's why when you bump into a teacher outside of school at like the co-op, you're shocked at their existence. You're like, what? They have a life? I was not aware of any. That
was me. Yeah, I bumped into a few teachers and I was like, whoa, what the hell is this like? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's that realization that they actually exist. But for my role, it's not like that, because I'm bringing in like all of me to the job, and so they know my songs, or they know that my upbringing from this island, because I'll talk about it in my poems. And you know, a big thing is if you're asking children to be vulnerable and to write about their lives, you best write about your own one first as well, because why should I expect someone to tell me about their parents' divorce and how it makes them feel if I also don't say, okay, look, my parents are divorced and I felt like this. And I think that that's a controversial thing for a teacher to say, because we're not actually allowed to bring anything of ourselves to the role. And we just have to pretend that we're these kind of emotionless vessels of content that just must deliver equations. And to me, that's not really education. Education is about dialogue and exchange.
Of course.
You know, I'll give you this story, you give me that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's how it came about. So Goldsmiths University, but there was people on the way that really influenced this role. Had a very good teacher, and he kind of he arranged for my first early performances on like radio and stuff. Like, he believed in me. He persuaded me to meet Benjamin Zephaniah, and I gave Benjamin Zephaniah, the poet, a CD of my work.
Wow.
This is back when CDs were a thing. And it was like a blank CD, and I'd written on marker pen like the names of the poems, and I'd put I didn't even have like a proper mobile, so I just put my mum's like home phone number on the CD, gave it to Benjamin Zephaniah, and I remember that evening because I just got PlayStation like online, and this is significant. So I was like playing FIFA online, and I was winning. I was so bad at FIFA. The fact that I was 2-0 up, I was like, oh, I've got to win this. I've got to win this. And then my mum comes in, and she's like knocking on the door. She's like, Christian, you know, your mate Ben is on the phone. And I was like, Ben? Yeah, and I was like, I don't know someone called Ben, which is true. I was like, I don't know someone called Ben. I'm 2-0 up. Go away, mum. In the way teenagers speak. She's like, no, this guy knows you. I really need to take this call. And it was Benjamin Zephaniah.
Wow.
And so, and he said, like, I can't replicate the nuances of his kind of Jamaican Brummy accent, so I'll just do it in my own. Yeah. But he said, Christian, you need to come to London, essentially, and if I can arrange it for you, you should come and do some poetry slams here, because I think that you have the talent at your age, and I was 15 or so. You have the talent at your age that could become, you know, you could do this professionally if you put your mind to this. And then I ended up doing that. And when I met Benjamin Zephaniah about a decade after that, when I was 25, and we were both performing on the same bill at an event. And it was like this nice shared moment where he was like, oh, I'm so glad that you made it. And I thought that you would. And I was so grateful that he, at that point, gave me the time. You know, he didn't have to even listen to that CD.
Yeah.
And, you know, I did the same thing when I was 17 with Akala. I was his support act. And again, I gave him a CD because now I know this is a technique. Give him the CD with the home number on. Again, I gave Akala a CD of a demo. He went on Twitter and started talking about, you know, there's this MC from Jersey who I really admire, and I think he's really skilled. And again, he doesn't have to do that. And it is all of these 50 Cent. Didn't do it in quite the same way. It's not that I gave him a CD. 50 Cent must have gone down a YouTube rabbit hole one evening. I wake up, he's accidentally changed my life because he's been sharing my work all night.
Wow.
And saying this teacher, it was kind of like a semi-patronizing comment, but a compliment. He was like, this teacher has actually got some flow. As in, like, look at him. You'd expect him to just be dead. Like, look at the state of this guy. But, he can actually rap.
Yeah.
And that so what's so funny is if we go back to that initial story, talk about the HMV, like the CD I didn't choose, but eventually it comes full circle.
Look at that.
Aware of my work.
And Kanye ain't showing you no love.
Kanye said nothing about me.
Kanye ain't got no time for you, bro.
I think once Kanye starts talking about you, it's never a good thing.
Yeah, that's it, man. You never know. You never know what you might say about you, bro. You just don't know what comes out of that man's mouth.
Yeah,
you know
I'm
what I mean?
happy.
But you know what? I got to ask you, man. Who are your top 5 MCs, man? I want to know who influenced you. You can start from the ones that influenced you and the ones that you're feeling now. Because obviously, as we get older, our taste change. But who are the ones that influenced you and who are the ones that you're feeling now?
Okay, so if we go for my top 5 as a teenager who I was listening to, and bear in mind, I'm nowhere near in terms of life experience or geography, the artist that I was listening to. So I listened to Home Sweet Home by Kano. That was like one of the first seminal UK albums that I was listening to. And there's another album by Jest. Have you ever listened to Jest?
Come on, man. I know. Jest is a hard rapper, bro.
Good.
That's like
sometimes
UK
you ask
hip-hop.
these questions and people don't know.
Bruv, I'm into hip-hop, man. I'm a hip-hop guy, trust me.
Jazzy, I shouldn't have doubted you for one moment. Not for one moment.
Come on, YNR Records, bro.
Yeah, that's it. Young and Restless. So that the album Falling Down was I thought incredible. And just like I went on to do English literature at uni, and I was just like, we should be studying, Falling Down, like the way that this guy puts his words together. So like Kano and Jest were two UK artists, and then at the same time I was listening to B by Common. That album was, I just thought, amazing. And the Jay Dilla produced It's Your World, where the way that he could tell stories was hugely influential. Whether I'd put Common in my top 5 MCs, I'm not sure.
It's funny, Common never really gets that slot, and it's not because he's not dope. He's dope, but it's just, I don't know, he just doesn't get it. Like it's kind of like Jadakiss. Jadakiss never gets it either. Yeah.
Jadakiss gets top ad lib of all time.
Yeah,
like he's clear.
You already know. Yeah, yo, I tell you this much, hip-hop is not dead. Change gonna come, just like Barack said. Money, power, respect, like the lock said. You'll be the man of the house, my pop said. Now can you picture me rolling like Pac said? Do it for the inmates and all of the hotheads. Heat the streets up right quick, it's all timing. Gucci everything, Sierra Leone diamonds.
Okay, top 5 then. I got asked this question on a different thing last week, and my answer will probably be different to what it was. Okay, number 1 for me is Andre 3000.
Oh, he's hard.
Like, I don't think anyone could be mad at that selection. Obviously, he doesn't release very much, but that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. When you look at someone like, I think the UK Office is a perfect model for what an MC should be. Yeah. 2 albums. The Office does 2 seasons, a Christmas special, and leaves at the height and never puts out anything substandard. People like Eminem could learn from knowing only put something out if it's, like top part. And this is what Andre 3000 has done.
Yeah.
Idlewild, okay, it's a movie soundtrack, not really.
So you said The Office.
You've never heard a bad verse.
Who's The Office?
Say that again?
Who's The Office? You mean the TV series, The Office?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was getting confused. I was like, I ain't never heard no rapper called The Office. I was trying to act like I knew, like, yeah, cool, The Office,
yeah. No, I'm literally talking about, if we're talking about how to be an MC, the UK TV series of The Office is a good example.
Okay. I was getting a bit confused, but yeah. But you know what? Sorry to change this, not change the subject, but sorry to like distract you from getting to the rest of your list. But it's funny you said about Eminem. I thought the same thing, because you see Eminem's first album and his second album, yeah. Yo, no one could say nothing about those 2 albums. They were hard. And then I don't know.
Top 5.
Come on, man. Those albums, like, I don't know how he was putting those words together. I don't know how he was telling those stories. I don't know how he was expressing himself. So Eminem, when he first came out, everything he said, you could visualize it. you literally could visualize it. Like, do you know what I mean? Some of it was a bit raw, but still you visualize it because he knew how to express himself vividly. And then his third album was like, what's this? Then he like turned to a bit of a gangster. I'm like, where's this guy going now? His music, I can't even. It's like,
Of course I'm on torrent. I'm driving a Porsche over the floorboards, over the 4 points, wearing the 4 Taurus, getting an abortion and a divorce at the same time to hear us affording. Look what I'm planning. I'm planning to do all this while you're panicking, and you're looking and staring at mannequins, and I'm going to Fannikins trying to get up a plannikins. All of the plannikins, panikins. Well, all the mannequins, Anna in the cabana. I'm in a cabana in the Janet. I'm in a cabana chanting all the stand-up banner. Well, you don't got the stamina, you're lacking the stamina. You're lacking the stamina while you're divorcing Harrison Ford, and I'm in a Porsche and flowing ports. While I'm on torrent. You're using way too many napkins. Papkins. Lapkins and chapkins. You're using chapstick and napkins while I'm papkin. Flapping around like a papkin. Flamming a babbity pan and chapkin. Damn in a can of pit.
He's just saying words at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know how impressive. I don't know how impressive it is to just shout words really quickly. You know, it's like, okay.
You know, I wonder sometimes.
There's the trap that so many white rappers, probably sometimes including myself, fall into, where they're just like lyrical miracle, cut the umbilical, I'm spiritual, physical, feeling so quizzical. It's like you said nothing in that whole passage.
Yeah.
Of, like,
you know, I wonder about people like Eminem when they get to that level. I always wonder, do people in the studio keep it real with them? Because they've got to have like entourage that'll be like, bro, I'm not really feeling that, you know. Someone's got to be honest with them. But I think because the gravy train is flowing, they just go, yo, that was dope, son. Yo, that Hannah line, yo, that was hard, fam.
If people kept it real with those artists, you don't get albums like Revival, or you don't get, you know, like none. You don't get half of Kanye's recent output. There's no one telling them, oh, maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You shouldn't. But the point where I'm saying, okay, you should quit at the top of your game doesn't apply to who I would say is number 2 for me, which is Nas, because Nas arguably had reached a point where people are saying, okay, I mean, he was doomed because he makes the all-time classic for his first album, so everyone's like, it's downhill from here.
Yeah.
But he's arguably operating at the apex of his powers now with this kind of resurgence of his Hit Boy produced albums, the whole King's Disease series, not to even mention Magic. So I think he has to be number 2.
Definitely.
But if you're putting Nas at number 2, you also have to put Jay-Z at number 2. They have to share the New York throne for me.
But Jay-Z ain't released nothing hitting since, man. Let's be honest. When's the last? Let me the last hard Jay-Z album.
Okay, there's no hard Jay-Z albums of recent.
Recent. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, 444 is a really good album. The No ID produced one.
I think the content is good, but the lyricism is poor. The content is amazing. It's very intelligent.
The samples and the production, but how much of that is Jay-Z? That's true. And I guess there's only so much you can be like, look, I have this beautiful woman who's incredibly famous, but oops, I still wanted someone different. Yeah. I'm sorry. You know, that okay, that can't probably make itself into a classic album. But I don't know, on the strength of Jay-Z's early career, maybe he deserves that number 2 spot, but now you're making me question it, even as I say it. Number 3, Black Thought from The Roots. I would put there.
Ooh, bro, you know your stuff, bro. You know your stuff. Whoa, Black Thought. I've never heard anyone throw Black Thought in their top rappers list.
People forget him because of The Roots, and they see him as part of this ensemble. So like, oh, I can't put The Roots in the top 5 because they're a band. But you forget if anyone ever forgets, and actually Questlove does a recent interview with someone, and he's like, if anyone ever questions the credibility of us being top 5, listen to the Funk Flex 12-minute freestyle where he's rhyming over like Burn by Mobb Deep, and and you watch him, he begins, and by the end he's like streaming with sweat, but he hasn't taken a breath. And then anyone can, no one can like be like, that's not top 5. Okay, so then I think our best current rapper that, from the new generation, or now not even a new generation because there's a generation below them, but I will put Kendrick at number 4. I think what he's done is incredible in terms of he's never gone. Arguably Damn is a more mainstream album, but he's never sold out, and he's brought conscious lyricism to you know, a very wide platform. I think Kendrick deserves it, but I know you're more of an old school guy, judging from.
No. Kendrick is dope, but if it comes to TDE, my guy is Absol. Absol is
Have
my
you listened
guy.
to the new album?
Herbert.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. I love it.
It's brilliant.
I love it.
There's one song I can't remember that. I gotta do better. I gotta do better.
I knew you were gonna say that. I was about to say that. I gotta do better. That's my joint off that album, bro. That's my joint off that album.
Just that sample where it's like angels always home, my dream. I think that
beautiful.
That is I listened to that and just on repeat. I think that was a beautiful, beautiful song. And then like he must have realized it too because he made it one of the singles and the visuals. Like it's really haunting.
Yeah.
I think Absol. Yeah, his name doesn't get mentioned enough, and I know
it will. Trust me, it will. The way that guy is moving, he's headed in a beautiful direction. It will. Trust me, because I think I love Kendrick, but I think Kendrick sometimes doesn't make any sense as well. He got that Eminem thing where sometimes I feel like he just knows, because people see me as an arty-farty kind of like museum kind of rapper. I could just see anything and they're going to go, interesting, lovely, I love the colors. They're just flowing so naturally.
Yeah.
Like, he says nothing sometimes, bro. But he's dope, though. Don't get it twisted. But sometimes I feel like he just goes, then he has a little pause where he does some weird alien voice and he just goes, ah! He just starts screaming.
Yeah. Okay, number 5. That's a tricky one. I don't think J. Cole. I do like J. Cole.
J. Cole's dope. I love J. Cole.
I do like J. Cole, but is J. Cole top 5? I'm gonna hold that and get back to you by the end. I'm gonna get number 5 to you by the end.
All right.
Okay. Look. This is Hip Hop Club. Where are we at? Hip Hop Club. Yeah. This is Hip Hop Club. Where are we at? Hip Hop Club. Look, I'm so tired and it's 4:15. I've had 2 coffees, I need more caffeine. But at least right now, I don't have to do much. Cause we're getting lit at the after school. That's what's up, today we're learning how to battle. Plus we're getting streams like a kayak with the paddle. I travel through the verse and I don't need a feature. Day in the life of a hip hop. Year 3 we're messing and year 5 is stressing. I guess next time I better plan a better lesson. Let me speed it up and accelerate like a Lamborghini engine. Staying after school but we're not in. Cause it's Hip Hop Club. Where are we at? Hip Hop Club. Yeah. This is Hip Hop Club. Like, where are we at? Hip Hop Club.
You said something earlier that registered with me when you said at first your school was not happy with you having these ciphers and eventually realized, hey, you know what? If you can't beat them, join them. And I think what you said about the curriculum as well, about how it's very colonial, it's very old school. It reminded me of Pink Floyd's music video for what's that song? We don't need no education. Where it just feels like it's the same old. When I was in school, I had that. I remember feeling like there were certain moments where I just locked off. I wasn't interested. And the only things that interested me, it wasn't even because the teachers were teaching me, is I went and done my own research. I.e., for instance, hip hop was one of the things that I went looking for myself. It wasn't something that I was being taught. And also ancient Greek, ancient Egyptian, and ancient Roman. I used to love all the mythologies and all the, like, you know, the historical events and that. But I went my way to go to the library to read those things. So I knew there was something that my brain would feel, you know, some kind of stimulation from. And I feel as if using hip hop to kind of like merge history, merge education, merge science, merge mathematics and education in general, it's a beautiful thing. And I think you've got something amazing going on. And I just wanted to salute you, bro. Seriously, you can't deny it. There's something about hip hop that makes people just pay attention a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, from an academic sense, you know, I'm constantly having to justify what I'm doing to the academy. And by the academy, I mean old professors who wear tweed and, you know, think hip hop is Vanilla Ice because they heard it, you know, back in the early 90s. Exactly. And you know, they'll look at me and say, young man, you know, you're bringing this disruptive thing to schools, and, you know, it's how could it be productive for exam success and stuff like that. With this, I'm just fighting dinosaurs here. And I know that, like, history is going to prove that people who are disrupting the state of education right now are on the right side of it, because it has been a certain way. And in academia, they always use this word like rigor, right? How rigorous are you being? Are you showing rigor in your research? But also for me, rigor is rigor mortis, and it is this dead stiff system that, you know, I'm trying to inject some life into this and this curriculum. And I, you know, in Hackney where I work, at my school, a school of probably around 1,200, predominantly black, and we are teaching a predominantly white curriculum that does not speak to the lives and lived experiences of you know, our young black children who are constantly being taught about Henry VIII, you know, again and again and again, and the Battle of Hastings. And it's little wonder sometimes that they're like, what is the relevance? So hip hop is an example of what we call culturally relevant pedagogy. Now, that just means, who are you teaching and how can you engage with the children that you're teaching? And just so happens to be that luckily I'm a hip hop artist, so I'm not having to be anything other than myself in order to connect with my students. So that's so lucky. It would have been such bad fortune if I'd have grown up just been really into Morris dancing, because how could I use that? That's not, you know, I couldn't use that in the classroom. But luckily I'm into hip hop, and luckily the kids I teach are into hip hop. So we have this shared commonality that we can use. And certainly I am such a believer. I am like trying to be this book called Ratchet Demic by Christopher Emdin, who is a hip hop. He's doing the same kind of work. All right. He did it first. Same kind of work in the US. There's a whole US movement of rappers becoming educators, going into schools and transforming things from within.
Wow.
The UK, we don't have that in the same way here. It's, you know, there's a couple of us, and it's a bit like one of the Star Wars films, like one of the 80s ones, where you got a couple of Jedis in hiding trying to fight this empire, you know, but we're with no kind of support, and we're trying to, you know, I don't know which Jedi I am.
You look like someone who could turn into Darth Vader soon, bro. You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful.
I'm panicking. I'm Anakin. I think Kanye already used that rhyme, and he's like, he's already used.
You can borrow. It's okay, man. We borrow.
Mannequin. But yeah, it certainly feels like it can be quite a lonely job, and also you get a lot of opposition from like Daily Mail writers and Daily Mail readers, and I'll extend that to the Sun as well. So, you know, on these kind of on these social media clips that you've witnessed me on, you know, stuff like Shade Bro or GRM Daily and SBTV, you get a lot of love on those platforms. Now, these are predominantly black platforms.
Yeah.
So the black community here is, I'm not speaking en masse for you know, the entire community that's full of a multifaceted group, but generally speaking, the reception from the black community that I've experienced has been so supportive and so positive, of like, oh, this is amazing work that you're doing. Now, once you start going into the reception from Little England, you know, rural Shropshire, and people with England flags outside their windows, the reception has been illustrating very, very interesting. So what you often see there is, I can't believe this is being taught in school. We'll not be sending my kid here. All the kids are going to be walking around with knives. All the kids are going to be selling drugs because they're listening to hip hop. So what is being exposed here is the racism that doesn't always come to the fore. But these people are equating, they're saying, okay, hip hop is a black form. They're equating hip hop with blackness and blackness with criminality. And they're feeling free to type this out. And it is revealing. So a lot of the comments I get, and, you know, sometimes my students will publish their poetry, and because it's through me, you know, they can be on the BBC. And I had an 11-year-old boy, a wonderful young man, and he wrote this poetry around the murder of George Floyd. And he wrote this poetry around Black Lives Matter. And the BBC had to turn off the comments because it was being flooded by racist white people who were like, this little kid's just been brainwashed, he's a racist. And you think, this is how bad the problem is, you know. And I'm there like, oh my God, I've allowed this kid to go on BBC to talk this most amazing poem. And like, I hope he never, he didn't
scar him,
but I hope he never saw that, because it would have, you know, his dreams. So sometimes this work reveals the real racist underbelly of you know, what England can be. And So that is a really interesting facet of the work. A lot of the opposition to it comes from racist white people who one person sent me an email calling me like a race traitor in capitals.
Oh,
And I was like, a
wow.
race traitor? What? Like,
Because you like a form of music.
like
Wow.
race traitor.
You should ask that person, do they like jazz? Do they like rock? Do they like blues? Do they like R&B? Do they like
I don't
any
know.
other form of music that was created by African Americans?
Because that is every form of music. The only exception I use is Morris dancing. You know, that's why I always
Even
use
Morris
it,
dance,
like,
I swear to God, I've seen something where the Moors invented that.
oh yeah,
Because that's why they paint their face black.
Morris dancing.
That's why they paint their face black and do it.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
It's the Moors.
Yeah, that's a good question. Because then, yeah, sometimes people will be like, "Oh, do you not feel that you're doing cultural appropriation?" Well, then you can ask the same of any genre.
Any
Rock and
genre.
roll. Elvis. What was Elvis doing if he
Yeah.
wasn't culturally appropriate?
only
What's Ed Sheeran doing?
Yeah, and the thing is with Elvis, only recently are they making it very obvious. Like the latest movie, because the movies prior to that about his life, they kind of left out the whole black influence. But the latest one, my uncle told me, I haven't seen, my uncle told me, he goes, they actually give us some credit. And I was like, some.
Yeah, I mean these are all derived, from the same source. But it is the ignorance of people is pretty telling. And I'm not saying that we're the same as the US.
Yeah.
But I do feel for my school children that this is the world that they're still having to go into. And it's one thing, and I'm trying to bring in as many artists as possible, because it's one thing me telling the kids how to live their life and how to behave. But, I'm a white guy from Jersey, and I have not grown up in Hackney and lived the realities of that life. So there is so many limitations to my role. So I think it's always important for my students, and I say this to them, I say, we can only go so far. I can tell you my raps and we can have all this fun with language. But at the end of the day, we are not, we have different experiences, and I can't pretend to know the difficulties because I've never and will never experience them. And I think that is, again, that is something you've always got to be aware of as an educator. You've got to be aware of who you are and how, the differences with your students. And I think some teachers might struggle with that. They'll be like, oh, can't understand why my kid is not behaving. I sent him out and he wouldn't go out and he was angry with me. It's like, yes, because there's so much going on outside of school. These students, before they come to school, they might be dropping off 3 brothers and sisters. Then they've got to care for their mother when they get home. They're knackered. And then like someone shouting about, okay, you didn't find the right gradient, and getting up in their face. Yeah, naturally, you're going to react negatively if you're in that mindset. So I think that what hip hop does, it's this genre that takes everyone's experience and validates it and says, you get to speak about where you're from, who you are. What's the phrase? It ain't where you're from, it's where you're at. And Rakim kind of popularized it. But hip hop meets everyone where they are at as an individual. And certainly from the hip hop community, I've been embraced by that community, because hip hop knows to do nothing else but embrace. And yes, there is negative connotations to hip hop, but when someone's like, oh, I can't believe you like hip hop, it's so violent, I'm like, can't believe you like films, can't believe you like nursery rhymes. Like there's violence in all of these aspects.
So
and
what's it like for you, like being a white guy rapping? Like, how do the kids perceive you, and how do the people in general that tend to like come across you, let's say not just your students, like people in general, fans, how do they sometimes like be confused? Because I'm gonna like ask the question a long-winded way, because when I was coming up, when I was a little kid, I remember Vanilla Ice did no favors for white rappers at all.
Oh my god,
he destroyed.
I was about to talk about him.
He destroyed any potential for anyone to say, hey, I'm a rapper, and not get laughed at. Do you know what I mean? So it was kind of like normal. That's the reason why 8 Mile did so well, because 8 Mile, he kind of like destroyed that narrative, because people were perceiving him the way we always perceived white rappers in that movie, which was, oh gosh, here we go again. I bet this guy's gonna flop and he's gonna be rubbish. And I was like, whoa, they were shocked. And I think that movie helped white rappers a lot. It did, because after him, we had great ones like Mac Miller's my favorite, one of my top 5 rappers, And I remember even my older brother saying, "What's it with you and these white rappers?" Because I like Action Bronson as well. My older brother was like, "You love all these white rappers?" I'm like, "No, I just love good rappers." You know what I'm trying to say? I was like, but prior to that, I would have been a bit embarrassed to say, yeah, I like a white rapper because Eminem, Vanilla Ice didn't do no justice, right? But still, that stigma is still kind of there, you know?
Oh, definitely.
Do you get that sometimes?
It's a lot less prevalent in the UK. I think there's a huge kind of Atlantic divide between how the white rapper is perceived. And yeah, certainly with Vanilla Ice, you know, he was going to neighborhoods, paying
people
local residents to pretend that they knew him and were his affiliates and posing on album covers. I remember Eminem complaining because he was like, you think it's bad you get compared to me all the time. I got compared to Vanilla Ice. And, you know, but yes, kids, their only frame of reference is Eminem. And sometimes I do like fast. I've got like a tongue twister rap to teach kids that is ironically it's my most popular one on like it has millions and millions of views.
Let me hear it.
All right, it's nonsense, yeah, but I use it to teach. So we do it as like when it's an educational tool, we use it for like teach a kid a tongue twister. So there's 12 rounds. And like I say, if the kid gets it right, they go on to the next round.
Okay.
But by the end, it's really difficult. So like earlier on, if I did it slow, it'd be like, I'm living in the middle. I'm living in the middle of a riddle. I'm living in the middle of a riddle and I'm fitter than a fiddle. And then by the end, it's like, I'm living in the middle of a riddle and I'm fitter than a fiddle with the vitamin delivered in the middle. I'm a dribble, cut the quibble and be civil with a spittle. I'm belittling the bigum and then dipping in the dividends. I'm regularly ripping up a rhythm with a pick a pen. Ain't no equivalent. That's too jazzy. I get the head nods there from Drazzy.
Yeah, in the middle of little Italy, little riddle, so middlemen who didn't do diddly. Oh,
exactly. Yeah, that's the frame of reference. Yeah, using the same assonance from there. But you know that's saying nothing, that whole thing, you know, like we're talking about. But kids love it, and they're always like, Eminem, do rap God. So I'm often compared that, you know, that's the only frame of reference. And I think that if I didn't address the white elephant in the room, it could be a little like awkward as in, but I just make it a joke because it is funny. It's odd that I'm a white guy from an island who by accident discovered hip hop. Without being arrogant, I say it's lucky that I'm good, because if I was bad, this would be so cringe. This would be so cringe. But I think that I've always been in situations where my skill has had to speak for itself. You know, in the cipher, and I was having this conversation just before at university because the same question was coming up. And I say, you know, in the cipher, your skin color does not matter. But what does matter and hugely matter is, are you good?
Yeah.
Because if you are not good, you're out of that cipher. So I've grown up like that, where I've often been the only white guy at events, you know, and I've embraced it. And also, I've never tried to be anything other than I am. You know, I don't pepper my language with, you know, oh, that was a bare sick rhyme fam.
Yeah.
You know, and I see other people do that in order to
I find that cringe.
assimilate. You know, like just talking in Ebonics, like they've heard the Big L song and they're just doing like Ebonics.
Yeah.
And I think when people, that is the danger of the white rapper, when they are kind of doing what I would call lyrical blackface almost, where they are trying to be something they're not.
Yeah.
You know, I never make any pretense to be other than my authentic self, and I think that means that there's not really any criticism. People can't say, oh no, you need to just not rap at all, because that's not what hip hop is about. So that would just create a genre where, you know, but I think that maybe Mac Miller was talking about it when he was like, we are guests at the table, and you always have to be kind of cognizant of that. You've got to be conscious, and you have to be respectful that this is an art form that is, you know, created out of urban decay and a politically disenfranchised group and a oppressed group of young black males and Latinos who were desperate for some form of creative expression in this whole burning Bronx. And for me to come in and just be a rapper without any of that struggle, you have to be aware of the roads that were paved for me to be able to rhyme in this genre. And I think when you don't know the history and you end up just, you know, kind of John Cena-ing your way into it and becoming one of them, I call them frat boy rappers. You know, they're like American white guys in frat houses bump your music. That's when you know you're a white rapper, and your fans are only those white privileged guys. That's that's like, yeah, the Jack Harlow types, maybe. I don't know. Jack Harlow,
There was a guy from the early 2000s who was like the king of the rap.
Asher Roth.
Whoa. I can't lie though, he was hard. He was hard.
I love college. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think that the white rapper is such a trope, but as long as you're good but you just have to be aware, don't you? Like, you just have to, you can't be blind to your skin color in something such as hip hop, and you have to take ownership of it and be aware. But I do think in the UK it's kind of different. And when you look at the like UK hip hop, High Focus, one of the hugest labels, is predominantly a white group, and no one could ever accuse them of kind of appropriating, because the way that it's done is so raw,
authentic,
hip hop. And they are embraced by Y&R Records, and I guess Low Life Records before Brain Tax ran away with all the money. They were,
Well, you know your history, bro. You know your history.
I did a gig with Maestro he now goes by Mice Diggy, and we were just chatting about it, because he was one of my favorite rappers coming up as well.
Maestro's hard, man. He's hard.
And it's just so nice to be in the same spaces as these people you idolize when you're growing up.
You know who you remind me of? Do you know a rapper called Doc Brown?
Yeah.
You remind me of Doc Brown so much, man. It's strange.
Really?
Yeah, it's strange. 'Cause I used to know him back in the days. Long before like he even was like a famous rapper. And just chatting to you, there's certain things, that the way that you talk, the way that you just remind me of him so much.
People always comment on my social media 4 O'Clock Club, because Doc Brown had a show on CBBC where he's like rapping to kids. And so there's definitely parallels between, like that.
He was a teacher for a while.
Yeah, he's someone I'd really love to work with, and just at the moment my live shows veer more towards comedy. So that literally, I don't know why I didn't mention this earlier, because it was so relevant to what we're just talking about. But my latest project is called 30-Year-Old White Rapper.
Okay,
and it is about the of the situation. And because when I was recording songs as a teenager, I lived with my mum and sister, and the microphone was kind of always on. So it actually picked them up when they would come into the room and moan about me trying to become a rapper. And now I use those samples to like splice the songs together. Because like my mum's from Yorkshire, she'll come in and be like, Christian, it's never gonna happen. I don't know why you're trying to be a rapper. It's selfish. Your sister's trying to do her essay.
It's never gonna happen.
Yeah. And then like I just use that to like start songs. And when I'm like approaching it, I'll do like, okay, I'm going to take this drill beat, but because of my upbringing, I don't have any ops.
Yeah.
No one has, I don't have, so I say that I'm like, I don't have any arguments with anyone. So I've just picked like a series of cartoon characters to have beef with. So I'll be like, let me post this rap. Pull up on the block, so Postman Pat drove his van and I stole his cat. When I stole his cat, I didn't post it back. I'm bad. Better call Fam and Sam. Flame on the mic every time I rap. All of you are living in a la la land and a ha ha laugh at the bars you scam. Chuckle vision, don't cut the rhythm. I keep up the mission and it slaps. Let's do it again, sweet when I bully this beat and I always keep it on track. I'm Thomas with more in the track. I'm Popeye with more in the can of spinach. I finish a rapper. I'm Neil Buchanan the way I attack. And I'm just going through like, it's just that drill rhythm. But obviously the words it's just stupid.
Yeah.
But that is me being aware of who I am. Now, if I had taken that same drill beat and be like, all right, free the guys, and just started off being like, and people do that, and I see that. I mean, there is that white drill rapper called Morrison, but he does actually look like he's had.
Morrison's is official, man.
I'm a UK gangster version of Eminem. I'm one of the realest, and that shit is evident.
Before we wrap it up, you mentioned earlier that you want to do a little thing where I throw words at you and you freestyle off the words, yeah?
Yeah,
all right,
I want to do that.
All right, so we're going to get into that. Can you hear that?
I can hear that.
All right, let's see if you can turn down a bit for you.
Biggie.
Ooh.
All right,
Oh. Okay. All right.
What's
House.
Biggie. Alright, I'm in the house like a Dr. No Dre, and I've been sitting in my house working all day. That's WFH, I say working from home, and right now I'm working with my Drazzy on the microphone. That's right, I'm in the house like Q-Tip and a tribe called Quest, or that guy called West.
Dog.
HMV when I'm leaving my house, I'm the top dog, that's the D-O-G. I reverse the letters, call me rap G-O-D, like Eminem, eating rappers like a packet up of M&M.
Andrew Tate.
Andrew Tate, when you ask a girl, they say that's the man you hate. And I can tell you that I don't like his philosophy, because I think he's got a bad sense of psychology. And I can tell him, and I can get a book of Andrew Tate's words, but no, I couldn't sell him, because their body's just a melon.
Teacher.
What's the word was it, teacher? I slice a rapper up like pizza, then I beat a rapper up on FIFA. I know that I be lean like the Tower of Pisa. I'm an educator, I leave a rapper on a respirator. I was teaching up in school with some ventilators back in COVID, cause we were always there. And I be teaching life, and I was knowing that
Wu-Tang Clan.
Yo, and now I'm talking about the Wu-Tang Clan. I'm putting any rapper in a new cram, man. I'm Lil Baby and the Baby mixed with just Muzz. That's my old school name from back in the day. Rapping away and watching Match of the Day. And I be cutting up tracks like the RZA with scissors, or maybe Jizza with the liquid swords. And I can spit some more. I'm taking over your town like I can wait, like I can kiss the door, kiss the floor like Oliver Twist, asking for more.
Money.
And then the beat drops, and I can tell you it's not funny. I'll be waiting for some money, putting crumbs up in my tummy. Gotta make that bread, daily bread and the gravy. Chasing up the money just like pay me like Rihanna. I tell you I can stammer, beating rappers with a hammer. Lyrically, give me the money, give me cash like Lil Wayne. The cash money that I can rap is insane.
Fufu.
And I don't know how to spell that. Is that F-U?
F-U.
Is that F-U? If not, then F-U. But I've been doing this and I've enjoyed this interview. Fufu was the last word, I'm gonna have the last laugh. And I'll be finishing up the rap with Draz, and it's all that jazz, and I'll be telling it like it is. And I was doing this, I'm finished, I'm a lyricist, I'm out.
Alright, one question I gotta ask you before you go. Have you had jollof rice before?
Yeah, so I actually don't know about your heritage, so my answer might be controversial, because obviously at my school this is a huge debate, and I think that the Ghanaians have victory with this, according to my West African children at school. But obviously the Nigerian children are debating this. So maybe I really don't know where you sit with this debate. Where do you sit? Oh no! Did you have the cricket sound effect ready for this?
I'm Ghanaian, bro.
Oh, yes.
Yes, you know what time it is, bro.
Oh,
you know what time it is.
Lucky. That was a 50-50.
You're so lucky, because I was going to edit this very poorly.
I'm a big fan. My mate, Rashid, his mum, we lived together at university. His mum brought a vat. I'm talking about a vat up of jollof rice. He's Ghanaian as well. And we just ate that we started it in September and we hadn't finished it until like April. It was a vat. So we were living off that.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
But Christian, listen, it's been an amazing conversation. And I pray that we can have it again sometime. There's a certain type of people that once I get them to chat to them on the podcast, yeah, I'm like, I want to chat to that person again, and you're definitely one of them, bro.
Oh, thank you, man. Likewise, I've really enjoyed this. I think it's been great. Next time, we're gonna make it happen in person.
So yeah, definitely. You got to come down to the set. Let's sit down. Let's talk. I can make you some jollof rice. You can enjoy proper jollof rice.
We can go bar for bar. I'll come to your set if you prepare some.
Boy, I'm gonna have to bring my friend Rain down. He's a teacher as well, and he raps. I'm gonna have to bring him down. Maybe he can go bar for bar with you.
Make it rain.
All right, listen, Christian, thank you very much. Have a lovely day, and thank you very much for joining me on the Drazzy Show, man.
Thank you, bro.
All right, bro. You take care, man. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching the Drazzy Show. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. That was a beautiful conversation with Christian. If there's anything that you want to share in the comment section, please feel free to do so. And guys, share this. Let people know about the Drazzy Show, man. Peace.
The Drazzy Show.